Give me a moment.
A plaster cast bust depicts a middle-aged man with impressive sideburns. The name on the plinth reads Kraz Mazov. Honestly, he does kind of look like you after all.
Hold on a second. Is this why you broke in here? To find out whether you're Krasmazov? Except that Krasmazov is dead. He's been dead for 50 years now. Well, you both do seem to share an affinity for sideburns, but it seems like old Kras here didn't drink nearly as much as you. Ah, very well. Let's look for identifying features then. Doesn't he have a birthmark right here? What about you? Alright, but here's the big thing. Krasmazov looks Samaran, and you don't. Okay, you win. Be Krasmazov then, I don't care. Why are you so hell-bent on proving that you're Krasmazov anyway? I think you have misunderstood who he was, but if you say so.
A weathered brown door. The number reads 20. Something smells good. Soup alongio. The lieutenant motions to you to go ahead and knock. This is the door. You already know it's the right door. This is going to be so hard.
You're right. Let's talk this through.
You hear light footsteps passing by the door and some folk music playing on the radio.
We have our first preliminary identification. In all likelihood, the deceased is the husband of Billy Méjean. We need to confirm this, as well as deliver the death notification to Billy herself. Now, delivering a death notification is never an easy task. There's a reason why it's often called the most stressful part of our job. This is why it's usually done in pairs. You got this. I'll be monitoring reactions, ready to act if necessary. Dead? Just don't say that you know how they feel. You don't.
Good advice. The lieutenant motions towards...
Hello? Who is it?
And someone turns down the radio.
The police. A moment, please give us a moment.
Tidying up, nervously. There's fear in her voice.
Come in. The door is open.
It's you from the bookstand. Did you come to bring my cockatoo back? I don't think I introduced myself properly. I'm Billy. Would you like something to drink? Tea? Lemonade? We're out of coffee.
The lieutenant has taken off his foggy glasses and is busy cleaning them in his handkerchief for now. You're on your own here. Condensation from stepping inside. He must feel vulnerable without his glasses. Is this why he's letting you take the lead?
Is this about Victor, my husband? Is he in some kind of trouble again? I can come pick him up in the station if that's what. No, this is something much worse. Is he in a hospital? How bad is it?
How about some small talk before you break the news? You've done this before. Just keep your focus.
What did you say? Oh. Oh. But he was just...
But he was just here, alive.
We understand this comes as a huge shock. I want you to know that me and my partner are here for you if you have any questions. Take your time, ma'am.
What happened to him? Was he drunk? I see. And you just found him there, lying in the cold. How long had he been there?
If you say 2 days maybe, it will be etched in her mind forever. She blinks, eyes welling up with tears, as her hand starts searching for something from the pockets of her dress.
Here.
No. I just need to tell my girls.
Unreal.
God, should I call them? Should I tell them to come home?
No. A day.
Good. That's probably the right thing. Thank you. Just tell me, what do I need to do next?
We've taken him to the city morgue. The local coroner will be contacting you shortly to arrange the funeral. Here's his number in case you want to contact him earlier.
A very good call.
Is there anything else that the RCM could do for you?
No, I'll call you if something comes up. Thank you.
We should step outside and talk. You did well. I'll call the station tomorrow and let them know the name of the deceased. That's it. We should get back to our case now that our duty here is done. Let's go.
You should return to the boardwalk now that the body has been taken away. There's something you need to see. A little something that your visual cortex has put together while you were away. Let's call it an apparition from the past. Oh no, it's one of those show, don't tell things, isn't it? You can just stop by whenever you're close. It should be quick enough.
Hello again.
As you approach the metal grill, you can hear several voices having what appears to be an animated discussion. This must be it. Beyond this door lies the beating heart of radical communism in Martinaise. Somehow, the night air softens the smell of trash and sea brine. As the breeze pulls through the canvas like a shuttle through a loom, you catch a hint of something unexpected, something earthy, warm, and burnt.
And getting people to think, to turn.
The acrid smell of failure.
Just look at these pigs sniffing about after hours. Go ahead and arrest me, officer. I swear I'll go peacefully.
The metal grill is cool to the touch. You notice the lieutenant is looking uncustomarily anxious. His posture is rigid. His right hand hovers near.
Oh, I'm fine. I was practically born to infiltrate underground communist cells. Which is just to say, we should be prepared for any eventuality.
You can make out at least two separate voices. Two voices, both male, approximately early 20s.
Careful with those now. I have it. It's going to work. I can feel it.
The clang of metal reverberates all along the scaffolding. The voices coming from the other side fall silent.
Who's there? Is that you, Maurice? Who said communist? Did we say communist? Get out of here.
For a moment, silence.
What's the passphrase?
There's no response. You begin to wonder whether they've slipped out some back way. No, they're still there. You can feel them back there.
Alright. The key's taped to the back of the door frame. Just make sure you put it back when you're done, or we'll all be locked out. And do watch the concrete. It just kind of falls away, in places.
Charmant. After you, detective.
Have fun at your underground meeting, pig. Hope it's a blast.
The two young men are either oblivious to or ignoring your entrance. Their attentions are fixed on whatever it is they're stacking in the middle of the floor. Matchboxes, it appears.
I think it's holding, Alexis.
It is. It's holding.
It's definitely not holding. Those matchboxes are stacked so haphazardly, it's like they want them to collapse.
Careful, careful. Damn, hardly any difference. You two, you are late.
They should know the meeting starts at 10 p.m. sharp.
One leader and one follower. The most ancient power dynamic. Don't let them see you flustered, sire. Play along.
We all have to take precautions, especially during these delicate times. What matters is that you've made it, and that you've done the reading.
Uh-oh. No one said anything about reading. You'll just have to wing this one.
You have? Excellent. Let's hear your critique then. They always say that when they haven't done the reading. Well, this is getting awkward. I'm not sure what you're expecting to find here then.
There's profound consternation in his voice. You suspect it's about something bigger than you're not having done the reading.
Maybe they can explain themselves.
The young man frowns at the little pile of boxes on the floor.
Nothing, just messing around until the meeting started.
They're watching those matchboxes awfully intently for two guys who are just messing around. It's almost as though they were trying to create the most unstable structure they could. With predictable results.
In the most generous sense, I would say we're cultivating revolutionary consciousness.
Yes, that's probably the best way to describe it.
But more specifically, we are running a reading group. The most rigorous and theoretically advanced materialist reading group in Martinaise.
Comrade Steban is a great discussion leader. One of the best at the university.
It's obvious they take this group of theirs extremely seriously. Whatever you do, don't compare it to a common book club.
That's our whole thing. The world is so shallow, all noise and repetition. We're interested in genuinely radical critique.
Precisely. We are not interested in senseless parroting. We like to read critically.
Within the contours of Mazovian historical materialism, of course.
Huh. As though you can call that problem teaching.
One thing you learn quickly at university is that you're not going to find a real education in any lecture hall or discussion seminar.
We are post-attendance, basically.
Exactly. The only worthwhile part of the so-called École Normale de Reversol is the library. That's where we've made our greatest critical strides. Go ahead. What do you mean? This is the reading group. We're in something of a rebuilding phase.
Some of our former comrades didn't have the ideological fortitude our work demands.
Intellectual attrition is maybe the best way to describe it. Felix said he couldn't keep up with the reading on top of his classwork. And Susanna wanted to read text other than Mazovian theory. Like novels, if you can believe it.
Imagine the audacity of wanting to read a novel in a reading group.
See? Even a gendarme gets it.
We've tried recruiting new members, but unfortunately the current intellectual climate is pretty hostile to infra-materialist thought. These days, if you're on the left, the ascendant schools are the Godwaldians and their iconoclasts.
Don't forget about Maurice and the turnips.
Right. Then there was the whole turnip debacle.
Whatever this turnip business is about, one thing is perfectly clear. These young students have a much deeper understanding of communism than you do. You could learn a thing or two from them. If you can convince them you're one of them.
They're the most depressing school of communism. They love writing long books with a patina of Mazovian theory to cover up their cheap psychologizing.
A gang of cheap psychologists and intellectual midgets. Typical Gottwalders, in other words.
It's okay for Uli to say that, because his dad is from Gottwald. The Gottwald school believe that intellectuals as a class are incapable of sparking revolutionary change. So all they can do is critique capitalism from inside itself.
In other words, they have lost faith in their own relevance.
That's why they spend all their time smoking cigarettes and writing long works of criticism that make you want to commit suicide. It is miserable. That's probably why they're always committing suicide. You see, the Gottwald school look like communists. They talk like communists. But scratch the patina and you'll see beneath that they're just depressed liberals who've read too many books. For starters, they love talking about beans. That's right. Iconoclasts are obsessed with beans. They love thinking about beans. They love counting beans. But most of all, they love building models to predict how many beans there'll be in the future.
Nota bene, iconoclast is an extra pejorative form of the already pejorative name, Mazovian economists, a moderate school of Mazovianism which advocates the gradual transition to communism through carefully managed economic modernization rather than violent social revolution.
They're by far the most bean-centric school of communism.
Ah yes, the much maligned bean counters, ensconced in their think tanks and high-rises, believing
If only. They've got all the beans accounted for in their asset sheets, their quarterly budgets, their future projections. But for some reason, there are never enough beans to go around. So we've just got to cut our bean rations in half.
And next thing you know, there are budget cuts, so now we've got to cut the bean rations in half again. You see, iconoclasts claim to be communists, but in reality they're just liberals with hard-ons for spreadsheets. Of course not. The only people who actually call themselves liberals are mouth-foaming reactionaries.
Basically indistinguishable from fascists. You'd need an X-ray machine to tell the difference.
Cindy is... how to describe her role?
Something of an ideological auxiliary, perhaps.
Yes, that's exactly how I would put it. And naturally, we support her radical counter-liberal aesthetics.
But she refuses to submit an essay, so we can't call her a member of the group per se.
That doesn't stop her from using a room for studio space, of course. It's an unfortunate story. You see, our ex-comrade Maurice is something of an economist.
He's studying macro and microeconomics.
Wow, a real intellectual, it sounds like.
Right. So a few weeks ago we were discussing the extra physical capabilities of the revolutionary state. And Maurice said... what were his exact words, Ulex's?
It was unbelievable. He said, turnips don't care if they are grown by communists, moralists, or Welkin. They grow just the same.
Just a minute. Steban, Ulixis. Why do those names ring the faintest of bells? Probably because they're the real names of Nazteb and Exilus, the authors of that so-called essay about Tip-Top Tournay you read in La Fumée. You should get to the bottom of this when you have the chance.
Basically, he was rejecting the whole foundation of inframaterialist theory.
What is this inframaterialist business they keep blathering about?
Simply that under suitably revolutionary conditions, crop yields naturally increase relative to non-revolutionary crops, which Morris somehow has the gall to deny.
Susanna said that he has been hanging out with some non-communists lately.
For us, the question boiled down to, if you don't even accept the basic ideas of Nielsen and inframaterial, you're not familiar with him? It's pretty advanced stuff. You may not be ready for it yet, gendarme. Only Krasmazov's most trusted lieutenant, the evangelist of the revolution, and the founding father of the People's Republic of Samara.
It's hard to overstate how unimpressed he is that you've never heard of this world historical individual.
He also happens to be the greatest communist theorist after Mazov himself. It was Nielsen who first postulated the existence of ideological plasma, which forms the basis of inframaterialist theory.
The young man sighs. His companion looks about furtively.
Flinching? No. We're not an operational cell.
We think of ourselves as more of an intellectual vanguard.
Our stance? What? Do you want to know if the SRV has established a party line on the lynchings in Martinez?
The SRV refers to the People's Republic of Samara, established as a socialist utopia by survivors of the revolution. It has since degenerated into a bureaucratic workers' state under the decades-long rule of President Sapormat Sport Gelazinski.
Though historically speaking, the SRV has supported direct action against right-wing paramilitary squads, especially when they are doing the Indo-tribes' dirty work.
Good point. So as a provisional matter, I can say we support it.
Are they being sarcastic? You feel like you're caught in some elaborate joke labyrinth, but it's impossible to see your way through. It's always that way. Beneath the crust of irony, there's a molten sincerity that threatens to erupt forth. You may witness it yet.
No, we're an independent organization. We acknowledge and respect the union's efforts, but our interests are more theoretical than Mr. Clare's.
He speaks the truth.
That's easy. Crime is simply the inevitable expression of the injustice and incoherence embedded within capitalism itself. It's a symptom, in other words, not a cause.
His companion can barely suppress a yawn.
No, unfortunately. The communards were hunted down and killed nearly to a man. All that's left of them are bones and old rifles.
His companion's eyes widen as you hold up the ancient weapon.
Yes, like that one. I wonder how many of these are still lying around in cellars or sealed up behind the masonry. Can I hold it? It's heavier than I was expecting.
The attitude of a priest bearing one of the holy relics of his faith. Though it is long out of service, its power is evident to him. When he's finished, he returns the rifle to you with a nod of appreciation.
You've read our article.
That I did not expect.
Well, don't keep us on tenterhooks. What did you think of the essay?
The delicate egos on these boys. Even though you're just some cop, they're desperate for your approval. Hey, you're not just some cop. You've got highly developed critical faculties. Now's your chance to show them off.
Well, of course that's just an initial foray into the subject. We're hoping to return to it for a more substantial treatment next term. In any case, I'm glad our piece found its audience. That's always the hope with these things, you know. We typically only accept new members once per semester. There's this whole process with essays and presentations on assigned topics. But given that we have some extra seating at the moment, I guess we could be convinced to expedite an application or two.
Steban, you can't be serious. For these gendarmes?
I am serious. As materialists, we've got to adapt to conditions as they are. Besides, we still need to pass the interview portion of the entrance process. Assuming he's even still interested, that is.
Is it getting warm in here? There seems to be a little pool of sweat forming in the depression of your lower back. You did. You must be extremely... Let's be frank. You've been quite studious these past few days. The hardest part will...
Everything all right, gendarme? You look a little green about the gills. Sure, we're here most...
Sleep well.
The gendarme returns. What do you need? Yeah, it's hers. She just sort of moved it all in a few months ago.
She said if she's going to make truly radical art, she needs a suitably radical workspace.
And I don't think she could afford rent at an actual studio. Oh, sure. It's definitely interesting, I would say.
His companion's eyes widen with interest. He has a cold smile. If this is what the Union man meant by theory combat, you've just scored a decisive blow.
Come on. It's not that I don't have...
You flustered the poor boy. Now he's got to say something.
I guess you could call her latest stuff a sort of counter-bourgeoisie calligraphy. She's got a real taste for radical slogans.
It's too bad she hasn't developed the theoretical foundation to do truly radical work.
I think she'll get there, though. She's still looking for a subject equal to her ambitions. The deal? At a fundamental level, I guess you could call it the shattered bones of a dream crushed by capital.
A feeble and hopelessly mixed metaphor.
That's really good, Steban. You should save that for an essay.
Thanks, Uli. When the idea is sound, the words just sort of flow.
Yes, now keep developing the idea.
Leave it to the gendarme to enforce bourgeois stylistic values.
Besides, he's just a first draft. Go ahead. The gendarme returns. You've...
That?
Well,
Hey.
well, in any case, I'm glad our piece found its audience. That's always the hope with these things. What do you mean? We're in something of a rebuild.
Some of our former comrades didn't have the idea.
They're the most...
A gang.
It's okay for Uli to say that. Do you think all the
No, of course not. That's reductive in the extreme.
Well, there you have it. You see, the Gottwald school looked like communists. Of course not.
Basically indistinct.
Go ahead.
She said.
And I don't think... Go ahead.
Hello again.
You're back. Good. What can I help? What would you like? Good. Oh. Sounds like he had... Of course. Of course, Detective. More lessons in basic reality? Nothing more nor less...
Yes, we are the Revachol.
He's being sarcastic.
Yes. Permit... And if those authorities drink so hard...
A strange cold.
Glad to have been... More or less... Glad to have been...
The surrounding blaze of the electric lights makes the white on blue police livery of the motor carriage seem beautifully ominous. Do something important? Something murder-related? There's always something important. Doesn't mean you can't take a moment to admire this piece of machinery. This is a Caprice Kanema, the Caprice Motor Corps follow-up to their highly successful workhorse, Caprice 40, and the answer to the Lum's racing breed, Feltherre series. With its air-cooled, rear-mounted 12-cylinder compression ignition engine, driving the rear wheels through a 4-speed manual gearbox, the Kanema is able to reach 100 kilometers per hour. The high center of balance is offset by a large battery bank mounted at the bottom of the cabin, feeding all the auxiliary systems and making the Kanema effectively a mobile power plant. Due to a quite steep price tag, it is very unusual to see one in police livery.
You want to take a closer look? 130.
I reckon that's a 7-liter V12 there. Man, that's got to be a major advancement over the KR-18G.
Yeah, you know it? Yes, that's right. I'm very impressed that you know these things. Yes, an extraordinary machine.
Helium headlights would improve the range and quality of the visual field a lot. It's a bit girly right now. Fit it with some proper off-road component.
Actually, I have a pair at home. Just haven't gotten around to fitting them yet. I need to... You want to help? Thank you for the offer. That might be fun. Let's do the case first, though, alright?
He liked the idea. Inside, you see a set of steering levers, a radio microphone, a pull...
This is Precinct 57. Not yet. But I was able to convince the database people to serve private sector information. Just a moment.
10-4, come in, officer. Over. 10-4, sir, glad to hear that. I'll write down that there is no need to issue a new one to you then. Over. 10-4, I know I already wrote it in a report, but it will stay on my desk for a few days. Over. 10-4, sir, roger that, and very glad to hear it. I will make relevant changes to the report. Roger that.
The gendarme returns. What do you... The gendarme returns. What do you need? The gendarme returns.
A weathered brown something. The lieutenant, this is the door.
Hello?
And someone turns down.
The police?
Tidy, there's fit.
Come in. It's you from... I don't think...
The lieutenant condensation. He must feel vulnerable without his glasses.
No.
How about some small talk before you break the news? I don't want to. I don't want to do this.
Say what?
Officer.
Too late.
Excuse me.
She... A weathered brown door. The something...
Yo, we have now. Delivering a death notification is never dead.
Good advice.
You're right.
You hit...
We have now. delivering a death.
The lieutenant.
Hello?
And he gives you a
The police?
tidy and it's fit.
Come in. It's you. I don't...
The lieutenant say he must feel vulnerable.
Is the... No.
How about some small talk before you... I don't want to.
It's... I don't think...
The lieutenant condensation. He must feel vulnerable without his glove.
Is the... No.
How about some small talk before you break the news?
It's me, Victor. And the kids here. Jolie is 16 and Jeanne... The girls are staying at their friend's place tonight. No. Vi, do you have any news?
She folds her hands across her chest. You've done this before.
What did you... Oh.
But he was just...
What happened to him? Was he drunk? I see. How long?
If you say 2 days maybe. She blinks.
Here.
No.
Unreal.
God.
No. A day.
Good. Just help.
We've taken him.
A very good call.
Is there a...
No, thank you.
We should step outside. You did well. You did enough. Can't save the whole...
Can't bring the dead back.
Anyway, I'll call this... That's it. Let's go.
You should return to the... A little... Let's call it. Oh, you can just stop by. As you... This... Somehow, the
Just look at these pigs sniffing. Must have
The mental... You notice the lieutenant is looking
Something's not right here. The equation doesn't quite balance, which is just to say we should be prepared for any eventuality.
The clang of...
Who's there? Is that you, Maurice? Who said call me?
For a moment,
What's the passphrase?
there's no response. No.
Alright, and do...
Charmant.
have...
The two young men are either oblivious to or ignoring your entrance. Match.
I think it is.
It's definitely...
Careful, careful. Damn, you...
They should know the meeting starts at 10 p.m. sharp.
What? Don't let them see you flustered.
We all...
Uh-oh. No one said anything about...
Yes, a revolutionary...
There's profound consternation in his voice.
Maybe they can explain themselves.
In the most...
Yes.
But more specifically.
Comrade Step...
It's obvious they take this group of theirs
We have been known to get into some spirited debates.
Precisely. We are not interested in senseless
Within the contours of Mazovian historical materialism, of course. Go ahead. Clinching. Our stance.
The SRV.
Though his...
Good point.
Are they... It's always that way. Beneath the crust of...
No.
He speaks the truth.
No, unfortunately. The communards were hunted down and killed nearly to a man. Not exactly the second incarnation of Krasmazov, is he? What's it for? Right. Sure he does. What do you mean? This is the reading group.
Kim and I.
We're in something of a rebuilding.
Some of our former comrades didn't have the ideological fortitude or
intellectual attrition.
Imagine the audacity of wanting to read a novel.
See?
We've tried...
Don't forget...
Whatever, you could learn a thing or two from them. If you can convince them You're one.
They're the most... So, the Gottwalds...
In other words,
That's why they spend all their time smoking. It is, you see, for starters, they love talking about beans. You're no iconoclast then. They're obsessed.
nota bene.
They're by far the most bean-centric...
Ah, yes, the much maligned bean counters, ensconced in their think tanks, and
If only
And next, you see, iconoclasts claim to...
he's studying.
Wow.
Right.
It was unbelievable.
just probably you should.
Basically used...
What is this inframaterialist business?
Susanna said that he has.
For us, the question boiled down to... Of course you do. It's pretty basic stuff. Well, it wasn't so much that he was expelled.
He just quit coming. We haven't seen him around for weeks.
Of course not.
Basically indistinguishable.
Cindy...
Something.
Yes.
But she refused.
That doesn't stop her from using... Go ahead.
The young man frowns.
Nothing.
Their watch is almost with predictable.
You've...
That.
Well,
The delicate hey.
well, in any case, I'm glad our we typically only... But given...
Esteban.
I am serious. Assuming he's even still interested, that is. Sure. We're here...
Sleep well.
The gendarme returns. What do you need? Ah, yeah, it's hers. She just sort of moved it all in a few months ago.
She said if she's going to make truly radical art, she needs a suitably radical workspace.
And I don't think she could afford rent at an actual studio. Oh, sure. I guess you could call her latest stuff a sort of counter-bourgeoisie.
It's too bad.
I think she'll get there, though. The deal?
A feeble and hopelessly.
That's really good, Esteban. You should.
Thanks, Uli.
Yes, now keep developing the idea.
That could be. It would explain some of the more ornate detailing. But we're speaking in world historical terms here. What his place represents, not what it merely was.
His friend yawns, evidently bored by literal reality.
Go ahead.
What's there to be scared of? You've really been cracking the books these last few days. You can go toe to intellectual toe with any reading group in Martinez. You've spent a not inconsiderable amount of time arranging the works in your mental library by theme and period. All the ideas and references you'll need are ready at hand. Now, chin up. You've got this.
Oh, you want to start now? Sure, we can manage that.
You've caught him off balance. The momentum is already in your favor.
Go ahead and take a seat. Since we haven't had time to prepare an exhaustive questionnaire, I think we can keep this interview more freeform. Why don't you tell us a bit about the books you're interested in? And we'll just see where the conversation goes. Absolutely. It's the only proper foundation to develop a real understanding of events. Interesting. Say more about that.
This is a good start. They're starting to loosen up. You feel relaxed and in control. Soon, you're in a lively back and forth on the political substrata of the Hiamdalaman universe.
But don't you think that pornographic fascist mythology gets pretty tiresome after a few books?
Let them know your interest in muscle man literature is much more high-minded than they're giving you credit for.
Ah, well, there's certainly value in that kind of reading. Comrade Mazov says something on that note in his collected speeches.
To find victory in the cultural war, we must first scout the battlefield.
These kids are eating out of your hand, practically. Another quarter of an hour disappears. The questions come rapid fire, but you have an answer for every one. Now you can sense things starting to slow down. The interview must be reaching an inflection point.
But to Comrade Ulix's point, Isn't there value in reading really difficult books, just for the sheer challenge of it? Oh, right. 16 days of coldest whatever. What was your take on it?
Now's your chance to end this interview on a high note. You ably summarize the novel's characters and themes. Even better, you're able to connect those themes to your critique of the novel's formal qualities, such as they are.
It's no wonder you couldn't finish it. Sounds like turgid bourgeois social realism. And Gradian realism is the worst realism. It's nearly as bad as Gottwaldian critical theory.
Makes you want to gouge your eyes out. Or better, gouge the author's eyes out.
In any case, I think we've heard enough. We could use someone with your perspective in the group. With just a bit more theoretical foundation, I think you'll be making real contributions.
Yes, I would say he's got serious potential at least.
And with that, welcome to the most ideologically advanced materialist reading group in Martinez. Here's your first assignment. It's an overview of inframaterialist theory. A little basic, as you'll see, but one has to start somewhere. You're going to fit right in, I think. Come back when you're done. We'll be here pretty much every night after 10 p.m. Do be sure to take your time with the reading. We'll be eager to hear your thoughts.
Hey, was there something you needed?
The window stands broken in. This is not the cleanest bathtub in the world. Ah, that soap scum smell. It smells like life, at least compared to you. The bathtub slowly fills with water. The water beckons. The water is only lukewarm, but still comforting. Like amniotic fluid, a few beer cans are bobbing up and down along your flanks, like sad duckies. You feel nice and lonely, and so tired. The cans continue to bob, as do your thoughts, aimlessly splashing up against the sides of the tub. Your fingers grow pale and are covered with tiny whirls as the water cools. You see the corpse. You can then houses along a narrow street, a video rental, darkness on the planet's curvature. The waterline recedes as you stand. You are cold now. Your clothes stick to your still moist skin. A mirror hangs on the bathroom wall. In it, the bed is still cold from the broken window, and not too inviting, but it's yours. You've earned it. The room behind your closed eyelids is familiar now, the only home you've ever known. Its darkness gathers. The last thing you hear is the wind blowing in through the broken window. Then something comes, a kind of sleep.
Like a deftly cast fishing net, sleep pulls you out of the world and into its dark shore. The rough mesh chafes, tightening around you, it digs into your brain.
How have things been going for you out there? Helped anyone lately? Saved anyone lately?
This bastard isn't even listening to you.
Because you know you are a murderer.
Hear that? He doesn't even flinch. Iceman doesn't care about killing people. That's nothing to him. Blackwater, under the bridge. The thing he's really scared of. Is much, much worse than that.
We're trying to help you. All these processes, these tortures, voices and tremors are all just distractions, flares and countermeasures to keep you from the last dream. The worst of them all.
The last dream will be total annihilation. Cinders peeling off the fuselage. We won't be there to help you anymore, Harry. We will be dormant. You will be naked and alone.
Of hell. An ancient sadness, brother. 10,000 years later, in front of the video rental, there is a warm breath on your face again. Everything is okay again.
Everything is so okay. Your eyelids flutter open.
The last thought in your head before waking is, maybe you shouldn't have seen that stained glass window in the church. The door is closed.
Who is it?
Tired. Controlled. Somewhere, not far from here, the lieutenant is preparing her file. Claudia Amandu, he writes. You realize the detective should be here for what comes next. It could prove dangerous to go in alone.
Always a pleasure to see an officer of the law. I mean, officers.
Hello. Lena and I were just discussing the...
Oh, hello, sweetie.
The cover of this pocket-sized volume features a swirl of orange, yellow, and green. The title, A Brief Look at Inframaterialism, is set in an authoritative yet approachable serif font. What an interesting color palette. It's vibrant, yet somehow leaves you ever so slightly nauseated. On the inside jacket flap, you find a brief summary. What is inframaterialism? A highly theoretical branch of Mazovian communism, a collection of mystical ramblings by a discredited revolutionary, or possibly both? This brief look, TM, introduces readers to one of this century's most fascinating and misunderstood theories in a concise, jargon-free manner. The back of the book contains 4 or 5 pages of primary and secondary sources, but you need access to a university library to find most of them. In other words, this guide is the only source you're likely to find. You turn to the table of contents. The guide itself is divided into several sections with seemingly esoteric titles like Effects of Plasm on Root Vegetables and Mental Projection and Transference. There's also a brief introduction about the life of Ignace Nielsen, known to his numerous admirers as the evangelist of the revolution, and to his even more numerous enemies as the apocalyptic Shrike. Ignace Nielsen remains one of the most controversial and fascinating figures to emerge in the years of the anti-centennial revolution, second only to Karamazov himself. During his unparalleled life, he helped guide a revolution in one country and found a new state in another. Along the way, he committed some of the most notorious war crimes in an era famed for its atrocities. And yet, his most fascinating contribution to history may be the most overlooked. His theory of ideological plasm, from which his followers and successors developed the school of communism known as inframaterialism.